Hey Raz, how's it going? Cool, what kit you working on? Hey Iceman, how's it going? Well, that's not bad, practice some skin tones. Hey, what's up, 234 S-Man and Joe? How's it going? Yeah, I went through all my paints this morning. I threw away a lot. I had a lot of bad paints. Had a lot of good ones still. So I usually do that in my spring cleaning, but I had to get some paints in the mail, so kind of wanted to see what was good and what was bad. Hey Terrell, how's it going? Well, you've seen my shells. I'm simple. I just put all the colors in one section. I don't like the whole rack thing. Spend more time trying to put it in a rack than actually grabbing the paint, so I'd rather just have it all ready to go and throw it back on the shelf. Hey, Rukin. Terrell, so I'll kind of break down of what's going on with the garage kit paints. Jesse contacted me this week and we talked. It turns out Life Tones, which is the paint Jesse gets the paint from, Life Tones is also the same paints that like taxidermy companies use for their like taxidermy, you know, animals and stuff like that. So supposedly, all the paints are going to crap, and nobody can get supplies from Life Tones anymore. The guy who used to own Life Tones, named Gene, at least I think that's his name, either that guy passed away, or he sold the company, but never told any of the paint companies out there, which is, they never told Jesse with garage kits, they never told the taxidermy companies that sell paints, stuff like that. So all the paints that they sort of got within the past 2 years have been going bad. I even went through some of my paints today, and I found out some of my bottles are all caked up at the bottom and they're no good. So Jesse did a lot of research. If you go on Jesse's Facebook page, he kind of explains some of it. So I guess what happened is he contacted the site, or did his research, and it turns out that the guy Gene, who owned the company, passed away. So either the company was left to family members or friends, or somebody else took it over, and they didn't let anybody know that this happened, and all the paints are being like not mixed correctly, because he was a chemist, so who's ever running the company now is not a chemist, so they're screwing everything up. So I don't know what the hell's going on, but it seems that he's going to stop the whole entire paint line because he's not getting them anymore from this company. Yeah, I had a lot of his paints too and stuff, but it turns out that, like I said, a lot of the transparencies, like at the bottom of, at the bottom of the bottle, it becomes a gel, and then you have all the liquid up top, and you can't mix it anymore. Like it like turns to a hard gel, and it can't be mixed. So it kind of sucks what's going on, but you think that if the guy passed away and the family took over, they would have let everyone know. Or if he sold the company, he would have let everyone know. But, so instead of Jesse sitting there trying to sell paints that he's never going to get, what do you do, Yeah, it does suck. I really like their flesh tones. I really like the way that stuff handled. So when Jesse told me that this week, that's what I did is I ordered a bunch more paints from other companies because I figured I better get some supplies and now and get used to the colors while I can before, you know, something else happens or I can't get paints or something. So it's kind of what I've been doing this week. So like I said, today I pretty much went through a lot of the paints. Some of the garage kit colors are fine, but other ones are shot. So I think Jesse said he's either going to try to see if there's another company out there that can make his paints and start up the line again, but it won't be under Life Tones, it'll be some other company. Or maybe it's a done deal. I'm not sure about that. I don't know the details on that. I just know that everything went to hell in a handbasket for him. Yeah, I like the flesh tones too. I've always liked the taxidermy flesh tones. I love the way the paints came out. I love the way they blended. The other paints from Garage Kits weren't bad, but it was the flesh tones that I loved the most, and that's kind of what what the started off with was just the flesh tones, and then he started going into the other colors. But yeah, so it kind of sucks. I really love those flesh tones. So what I've been doing now is I've been buying up the Privateer Formula P3 flesh tones. And so far, I really like those. Yeah, the paint's great. Transparency was great. The transparency, pale flesh, and bright flesh were great. The flesh tones were great because they were for taxidermy, you know, and that's what they were made for. But, you know, this is what happens. Well, 234. So basically what it is, it's a company called Life Tones. And what it is they're like a company that mixes paints. And then you could go to them and you can say, hey, I want this swatch of paint made and I want to create my own paint line. And they can mix up the paints for you. So you can have Garage Kits, US Colors by Life Tones, you know? So it's the Life Tones company, but they outsource their paints to whoever wants to buy it. But I guess that company, either the owner passed away or he sold it. Nobody really knows. So, but yeah, if you go onto a Garage Kits Facebook page, Jesse made a couple posts on what's going on. Might give you guys a better idea if you're on Facebook. You can kind of go and check it out. I mean, the other thing too is I think the post Jesse made. Somebody told me to go check it out, and I did read a little bit today, and I did actually send an email to Jesse today as well. Like if you go to another company to make your colors, you know, some of these companies deal with like, you know, Vallejo, Tamiya, Mr. Color. So are they going to want to sit there and work with a little, you know, a small company like him? That's another problem I guess he's going to have to run into. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So, and sadly I can't sit here and wait till what happens. You got to keep going with the flow of work. So, I'm trying other brands, different mixtures. Like this Wonder Woman here, I painted up with the Privateer Formula P3 mixed with some other stuff. It came out pretty decent. So I always have to have a backup plan. It sucks too because I went through a couple of the transparencies today and literally they were all just caked up. So supposedly all the other taxidermy sites that have had these colors and and all their clients were complaining of the same problems. So Life Tones, the company itself, Life Tones, has gone to shit. Don't know why. They never made an announcement of what the hell's going on, so I mean, if the guy did pass away and his family took over the business, like, hey, tell everybody, let them know what's going on, you know? But unless he sold the company, then he should have said something. But it seems that the guy passed away, from what Jesse dug up in information. Kind of a crazy story, really, you know? And supposedly, the guy passed away. If he did pass away, he passed away like 2 years ago. So, whoever, you know, who's ever been running the company wasn't the guy Gene. So that's even weirder, you know? It's like, if the family took over the business, they never said anything, so they were sending out emails that they were Gene, you know? So, it's even a weirder situation right there. It's kind of funny, I've been using the Life Tone paint since I got in the hobby, because, I forgot the name of the company, Kit Builders Magazine used to sell the paints, and then I think Jesse took over that, didn't take over their brand, contacted Life Tones and made their own, his own, so... Well, that's the problem. Is it's not that the pigments are. From what I understand, the chemist Gene was also he was a chemist, so he actually mixed up the swatches too. Yeah, so I have some older paints too, Terrell. I have some. I have some paints from garage kits that are probably like 5-6 years old that are still okay, but it's the stuff in the past 2 years that are going bad, and that's where supposedly either the guy passed away or sold the company. So it's the recent stuff that seems to be going bad. Now I have Winsor Newton paints that are in the bottle still, I mean in the tube, that I had in art school in 1995, and those paints are still fine to this day. But, you know, who knows what's going on with chemicals being, you know... You know, who knows, they're probably not able to get the same chemicals they used to back in the day, or... Who's ever running the company now is running it to the ground and they don't know how to mix the paints properly, or I don't know what the hell. Yeah, because I think the other thing Jesse told me is one of the taxidermy sites got in an order for like brown paints, and every bottle of brown was a different shade. So that tells you right there, who's ever running the company or doing something doesn't know what they're doing. So... No, it's kind of a crazy story, you know? I guess my theory is who's ever took over the company or running it didn't want anybody to know that the owner passed away, or who's ever doesn't know how to mix the chemicals properly. So they figured they'd just keep their mouth shut and nobody would say anything. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on, to tell you the truth. So over the next couple videos and paint ups and stuff like that, I'll be using different brands of paints, because gotta start, you know, figuring out what to do and everything. I mean, actually, I can show you guys my paint rack. I'll put the camera on the paint rack. I cleaned it up today. So it's kind of a not the best angle for it. Let me see if I can. So it's kind of hard to see because I can't get the angle. So I have a couple of Garage Kits flesh tones left. Then I have all these Formula P3 stuff, some Garage Kit stuff, and then some other companies. And then all my transparencies now, I'm using these Badger Freak Flex. So I bought a couple more of these transparencies because I still need transparencies for stuff. But since Garage Kit stuff isn't working and I can't get it anymore, I gotta try other companies. So this Freak Flex stuff is actually not that bad. But it's actually hard to find this stuff now too. So that's another problem. So this is the kind of stuff I'm running into. Sorry, it's not the best angle, but you know. And then also, like, so I threw away a lot of paints today because there was just so many bad stuff, and plus a lot of Tamiya's stuff went bad on me. So. So as of now, what I'm sticking to is a lot of Vallejo, Citadels, and Formula P3. And then any golden stuff I get, I'm trying to get the thicker bottle stuff, and then I thin it down, because I don't like the golden super flow ones, or the free flow, or whatever the hell they are. High flow. It's the high flow. I don't like the golden high flow stuff, because it's so watery. It like when you spray it over this area, and if you spray too thick, what happens is it's so watery it seeps underneath your masking. So, but yeah, Formula P3 stuff, good. Like a lot of the Citadel stuff, this stuff is always really good. And then a lot of the you know, Vallejo, Mecha, regular stuff like that. And the reason why I'm sticking to some of those paints is because I can actually go down the road to a hobby store. It's called Hobby Town, and they actually carry these paints. Not the Formula P3, but they carry the other ones. So if I'm ever like in a rush and I gotta get a paint like that day, I know I can just drive down the road like 20 minutes and get one. Now I've never used the, what is it, Mr. Hobby paints. You guys who have used them, are they more like a Tamiya paint or are they more like a Vallejo paint? I've always kind of wondered. I've never seen them and I've never ordered them, but if they're like Tamiya paints where they got like that alcohol in them, I won't bother with them. But if they're like more of a Vallejo paint, maybe I'll check them out someday. Yeah, the Turbo Dork stuff I'm trying, but the only ones that I've been able to get is those metallic ones. So I'll have to look into them more. Oh, so they're more like Tamiya? Okay, forget it then. Tamiya was good back in the day when I started, but then when I started, you know, getting into like the other stuff. Oh, they're a lacquer. Yeah, see, I like acrylics more. It's just a preference. But I've noticed though now with the Formula P3, the Citadels, and the Tamiyas, not the Tamiyas, the Vallejos, they seem to have gotten to the point where once they really cure, they're a little bit more durable than the garage kits were. So that's a good bonus to them. Garage kit stuff, sort of like the flesh tones, if you're not careful you can scrape that stuff off with ease. That's why I always went to seal them. But now that I'm messing around with the other brands, I'm learning. They have good metallics. Maybe someday I'll buy like a set somewhere and I'll test them out. I just don't like lacquers or enamels because of fumes and stuff. See, my problem is I don't want to blow cash on stuff just to try it and then it goes to hell. Would like this, you know, if I knew somebody that would, you know, that lived near me or something, I can try a bottle or two. Because these paints are getting very expensive lately. Because everything is going up in price, so... I wish Golden went back to their air opaque stuff, but now I gotta just do the fluid acrylic stuff from Golden now. So if you thin it down a little bit, the stuff is still good. But if you don't thin it down with some water and you spray it, it goes on too thick and it becomes rubbery. So that's the only thing that sucks about the fluid acrylics. And they're high flow, like I said, they're so watery. I don't know why they changed it. But, whatever. I wish it was summer again. Because I haven't been in the garage in 2 weeks now because it's just been raining and cold non-stop here. Today's like the first day the sun is out, but it's still friggin' cold out. Oh, and if anyone's wondering the reason why I have a piece of foam here and I try to keep the silly putty on the foam is if you're not careful with silly putty and it gets on like a cloth or your t-shirt or something, it's like chewing gum. It actually gets into the fibers and you can't really get it out again. So I keep this as a soft spot because I painted her up, but I keep this here so the silly putty doesn't stick to this because this is just foam. But if you let this sit into your cloth or your t-shirt or sweater and then you try to pull it out, it gets stuck in there like gum. And I'm going to try a little something different with this one too. See, I did the texture on the boots and the here, I kept it smooth. I'm going to do a little bit of a semi-texture on this too, just to change it up a bit. Just to give her a different look. Now I know her heels are white too. I'll do those later. Kind of more of an off-white. Just to change up the heels a bit too. I'll have to touch this up with a brush because it's going to be hard to get in here. It's the only thing that sucks when you put a piece together like this. My, Terrell, you're asking about my spray booth that's in the garage? As far as fumes, I don't have it properly vented. I only put that tube up to that one window. So if I get a backdraft in that window, the fumes semi come back into the garage. The main reason why I did it was because of the dust. I still wear a mask in the garage when I prime because I still get fumes in there. If it's a summer day and I have the garage door open, then I'm fine. But in the winter time, like, you know, keeping the garage door closed, I semi get the fumes still in there. But the main thing that I did it for was the dust, because if I wear a mask and I prime, I'm fine in there. And then the fumes go away within, like, you know, 15 minutes or so. But before I actually did that, the dust, when I had that chop back underneath the hole, the dust was everywhere. And the other problem too I was getting was when I would prime an item, I would get dust buildup underneath like crevices, and it became more of a hassle. So the main thing is it's not as much as fumes as it is getting the dust away from the item. That's why I built the booth more than fumes. I find that if you wear a mask and you're in there and you spray, you don't get all that dust coming back on your item, and that's what creates all that dust buildup underneath crevices and hair and stuff like that. So I rather wear a mask and get a little bit of fumes and no dust than to get no fumes and dust. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have did 2 blowers in there and have 2 blowers blow it out, and I would love to like cut a hole through the side of the garage to have the vent go right outside, but I have asbestos shingles on the house and I don't want to cut through those because it's a nightmare if something happens. But the dust is most important though, I find, on your item. If you can cut down on the dust build back on it when you prime, your life becomes way easier. Now, my booth that's here inside my studio, if I have that kicked on and I prime in here, I don't get really any fumes in the house because it's ventilated into the garage, and as long as I have my garage door closed, I get no fumes. So like I said, I just don't have it properly set up through that one soffit that's on the side, you know, in my garage that I put it in. If I was to close that soffit and actually put a hole in there I wouldn't get any fumes in the garage. But I need to have that vented in the garage though because of I'm down the shore, so I can't really kind of close that. But yeah, I wish. I mean, the more I think about it, it probably would have been better if I did 2 blowers for that priming booth. 2 blowers would have really helped out with any dust. Yeah, you can, as long as, from what I understand, as long as you have a fan that doesn't create static electricity, you should be fine. And the only reason why I put the, and the other thing too is you gotta put like a filter, because you don't want any of that dust or any flammable stuff, particles getting into the fan from what I was told. Yeah, if I were you, I would do it. I mean, anything will help you. You know, if you set up a little filter, you know, set up a little bit of a square filter in there. You get your filters at, you know, Home Depot, buy them in bulk like I do, a little bit cheaper, or Amazon or wherever. And as long as you put a filter in there and you get a nice good blower box, you'd be fine. I tell you though, ever since I did the airbrush booth in my studio and I did the priming booth in the garage, life has been way easier to prep statues. Way easier. Like back before I did all this, I used to have to sit there and sand all the dust that would get into these areas, and then when I was spray painting my item, you know, with skin tones, I was getting dust built up underneath areas that it was a pain in the ass. But now the airbrush booths make a world of a difference. Yeah, if you build it, let me know down the line. Send me pictures through my website, email, or whatever. I like to see how you build it. Yeah, if any of you new guys are in the hobby and you want to get into this, trust me, building a nice airbrush booth to get all that dust out of your system, it will make a world of difference. You know, it's funny, when I got this house, I had that audiograph booth, and I was like, oh man, this thing's amazing. I'm not getting dust all over the house, but then I realized I was still getting dust. It wasn't as a good booth as I thought. But the other thing too, I guess, is you don't want to have too much of a booth. You know, you don't want to have something that's like a shop vac right next to your spray paint thing, and when you're spraying, you know, the paint's going this way instead of your item. So the idea is to spray it this way, and then all that dust gets caught into the booth, so this way it doesn't come back on your item. Yeah, things I wish I did earlier in the hobby, like when I really got into it, was get a better airbrush booth and also buy the silent air compressor. I was using that automatic shut-off piece of crap one for too many years. But then when I finally bought one when I was in the apartment, it made a world of a difference. So, airbrush booth, airbrushes, and compressors make the difference. But we all got to start somewhere. Unless you have money to burn, it takes a lot of money to get to a good setup. It was funny too, I was building the airbrush booth just before the lockdowns too, so if I was going to build it during the lockdowns, it would have costed double the price with all that wood I had to buy. So I kind of built mine at the right time. Plus, scraps of wood are good too. If you guys work on houses, or you got friends that are working on houses and they got scraps of wood, steal all their scraps of wood and jerry rig stuff. I usually like to give a little bit of a tiny quick coat of the adhesion promoter, only because this area I sprayed with the, what was it, the varnish. So I figured just do a little, just to make sure it bonds a little bit. Hey Jess, how you doing? Alright, so I did a off-white on there. So we're gonna sort of add white to it now to brighten it up. Gotta get another bottle of that golden white. I think with this paint up, I'm trying to make it more of a older, leathery, worn type look instead of making her so super clean like I usually do. Just to try to change it up a bit. Hey Raphael, how's it going? Just plugging away on commissions today. How's everything on your end? Alright, so when I pull off the masking, there's probably going to be some mess ups. I'll go back into it later and clean it up. It's kind of hard to make this perfectly masked off. Sorry, having some hot chocolate I picked up at Wawa earlier. It's kind of a hot chocolate day. Gonna hit this with the blow dryer real quick. Hold on. Alright, so since I didn't like spray super thick or did any clear coats, just should come right off. No issues. So even though it's kind of an off-white, but against the red, it's still gonna look like a brighter white. So sometimes you don't always have to do pure white on something. That's what I usually did a lot of the past times on my Wonder Woman. So trying to change it up a little bit. Give it a little bit more life to the items. Alright, a little bit of chunks stuck in here. Alright, so I gotta clean up some of the edges. I'll do that when I'm ready to paint up the bottom heel. So I don't think I'm going to do the heel the same exact color. It's going to be a little bit lighter. I was thinking maybe like a lighter brownish color. Just to clean those up a bit. Yeah. So what I'm going to do though is, before I take off the top of it, I could do a coat of the, whatchamacallit, varnish. That's it. Top tip of my tongue. And then I'll take off the top. It'll make life easier. So I did a satin varnish on her the other day when I did the boots. So I'll do the satin on top of the white. just to give it a nice good clear coat, protect it, make it a little bit like a sort of leathery sheen to it without making it shine. Hey, raccoon. Alright, so I just got some trim work to do on that. Clean up the edges. It's always hard to get pure white against like skin tone, nice and clean. Zippy depends on what I'm sealing. Most of the time I use Vallejo Mecha varnish. I'll show it to you in a second. trim that up later when it dries. Start working on this one. So I have a matte varnish and satin. There's also a gloss. This stuff is really great to, if you really want something really flat, the matte is great. If you want something semi-shiny, satin is great. And they also have a gloss. If I really want to protect skin tone, after my skin is all cured up. So this item this weekend, what I did was I gave it a good coat of Duplicolor clear top coat, and basically once I did a nice coat on her, but I didn't make it bleed, but I didn't make it spray far away where it got dusty. As it's starting to cure a little bit, it gets tacky, then I sprayed matte varnish on top of this. And what it did is it dulled it down. But I used a little bit of extra satin and matte on her to make her look a little bit shiny. It's kind of hard to tell with the light hitting it. Hold on, let me get the camera over here more. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see if, I don't know. So anyway, yeah, so I did that on it. So if you ever watch some of my videos for skin tone, I do this on there. It's a car paint. And it'll really make it strong, but if you hit it with this fairly fast, it'll dull it down. And you got to get used to mixing. You can't just do it one time and you screw it up. Try and test it on a couple things, and it just gives the skin tone a little bit more durability. Sorry, camera arm. It's always a pain in the ass to move. Alright, so on to this one. This one... Yeah, no problem. Glad to help out. There's a Tester's dull coat too out of a rattle can, but that stuff sort of melts certain paint, so you gotta be careful. I gotta check out his email again real quick. Alright, so I'm just looking up some pictures. Alright, so he wants to go with this peanut. So the red is kind of like, he said, like the Queen Studios Wonder Woman. Probably should have did the black trim on her hair first. Oh well, screw it. So just mask off the skin. So we got to do the boots and the red. So my goal is to do the red and boots first, and then I'll do the blue. And then after that, it's all about the gold, and then the belt and the hair is last. Trying to think of how I'm gonna do this. think I'm gonna use some of the Spaztec red. I think I can get a cool look with that. But let's see if it works. So I'm gonna have to mask off some of the gold. So the outfit's got kind of a red sheen to it. It's almost like candy coat, but I guess that's what they were going for. The reason why I'm kind of masking it this way is because if I do this candy coat red stuff and seal it, I don't want that sealer on all the other areas. It's gonna be a pain in the ass to get under this shit. And I have two Spaztec clear reds. One's in the spray can and one's in a bottle for the airbrush. I'm gonna probably use the airbrush one only because there's not really that much of a big area to use the spray can, and I don't know how well it'll work. So we're gonna find out how the airbrush red works on this. Joe, are you there? I just got that text from you. No, we're gonna make it work. I just don't want it to be like Iron Man metallic, that's all. Gonna try to make it look more like the Wonder Woman movie, but not make it look like it's an Iron Man outfit. That's all. That's kind of just what I don't want it to make it look like. Because theirs is kind of like a it looks like the outfit is almost like how I used to paint the Harley Quinns, you know, with a basic silver base and then a red over it. But I just don't want it to look too much like it. Like if I was to do a chrome silver and then that like clear red over the can, it would look like almost like an Iron Man crazy shiny outfit, which I'm gonna semi do, but with a black tint to it through the airbrush, and I think that'll tone it down a little bit. We're gonna see. We're gonna see how it works. Just get the masking done first. Just don't want it to get this clear coat all over the rest of the areas. Like I don't mind what they did with her outfit in the movie. It's just that like some of the factory ones I've seen, they make it look like it's an Iron Man armor. And what I mean by like the statues that guys produce. Trying to think, yeah, I guess we could do the boots as well at the same time. And I always try to plan everything out as I go. Try not to rush it too much. They always say masking takes hours, where painting takes a couple minutes. Yeah, I think we could do something like that, Joe, the picture you just sent me. That's kind of like a flatter color, too. Let's see what I could pull off, you know. Let's start what I'm thinking first, and we'll go from there. If those don't know Joe that I'm doing it for, is in chat, and he's texting me pictures, so I'm not just talking to anybody out of the blue. And then the other thing too is what you see on camcorder on the stream would look different in person, so it may look weird when I paint it, but we'll see. Damn, Raz, you're gonna have to start your own company soon. Get some workers, get some $150,000 printers like Onage in China. You'd be doing it up. You never know. It's always how it starts. One job here, 2 jobs there, 5 jobs there. Before you know it, getting so much work, you gotta expand. That's how it started with me. Started back when I was doing it as a hobby, while I had a full-time job. Lost my job. Started taking on more and more work. Before I knew it, I said screw it. Instead of working for the man, be the man. Now my edging's not going to be perfect here, so I'm going to have to go in later and clean it. Only because this is kind of a, it's kind of a lot of different stuff to this armor piece, so. What I plan on doing, I find it'll be easier to clean the edges later than to try to make the edges perfect now. Only because I don't want to bleed onto the skin either. I definitely know when I do the gold on this, it's not going to be like this rich yellowy gold. It's going to be a little bit more pale gold. I think it'll look better that way. Like the rich gold on this doesn't, it's not going to look good when I kind of set it up later. Yeah, so sorry, the camera's not there. So anyway, there's this, you see skin here showing because it's not an actual like boot. It kind of goes around her calf muscles. So you gotta kind of sit in here and Get all this silly putty in these areas. That's one thing I didn't like about these boots for the movie. They should have kind of closed them up or something. It's kind of weird to see the skin showing. Yeah, we'll do the pale gold. So sort of similar to what I did to the other Wonder Woman, but not as yellow. Give her a little bit more, and probably put a little, not rust, but that what you call it, the Warlock bronze in it. Give it a little bit more of that older look. Hey, Hangerbird, how's it going? The silly putty that's in this container here, couldn't even tell you how long. I've had silly putty for so long now. This putty that's in this back container is kind of more my priming. I kind of shifted. I have 3 tubs. I got my new one that's clean. This is the semi-clean. And then I have the dirty stuff. The dirty stuff I try not to use on statues. I use it more when I'm like priming and like enamel paints in the garage. Only because it's got so much crap in there that sometimes it might stick to your paint if it's a little tacky or wet. So you don't want to get it too messed up. I mean, I don't know if you guys know the one artist, Jim Capone. He does a lot of paint-ups in the garage kit community. And he went to a show one year, and he literally showed me a dirty black blob of silly putty he had for like 13 years, and he's still using it, he says, to this day. So yeah, silly putty goes on a long time. But I think if you use like enamels, and you use lacquers and stuff like that, your putty kind of starts getting caked up more and more. Now, because I'm going to be using Spaztec colors, that's why I'm using this stuff. I try to keep the cleaner stuff for like when I have to do some really clean areas. This is why I tell new people, when you're new to the hobby, put on some music, sit down, relax, and sit there and mask your item. It'll take a while to mask an area. I put clean silly putty on because I like to put cleaner silly putty over skin tone until at least until the skin tone is completely cured. Only because if you're like say you paint up an area like say I painted up this blue, and blue seems to like have a very strong pigment to it, and sometimes like if you don't let that pigment dry, it'll start staining your silly putty, you know, and then when you go put it on your skin and when you pull it off, that stain will go on there if you're rushing your item. So I try not to, like, see, this silly putty is all broken up. But say you have an area that's kind of like stained, like here, say like that's like a blue stain, and if you don't pull out your silly putty and kind of do this and break it all up, if you leave like some of those like particles there, those heavy ones, and you put it on skin tone, they might stain your item, you know. So that's kind of what I try to keep the clean silly putty if I need to do something. Like when I'm ready to do her hair, I might use the cleaner putty, and then I'll spray it in the black. But if I'm going to do the hair and I'm going to paint it in the Spaztec gloss black and dull it down, since it's an enamel or a lacquer, I will use this stuff. Yeah, if your silly putty is falling, then you're putting too much on. So I always try to keep it like fairly thin when I wrap my item, because if you put silly putty on it like, you know, this thick, but then you have a lot of it, it starts to sag down. So try and keep it thin, but not too thin that the paint goes through it. Just thin enough that it covers. And if you're in hot weather too, you know, and you have a hot area, your silly putty will sag if you leave it on too long. Tester's dull coat doesn't make it sag. Tester's dull coat melts it. And when I say melts it, it melts it. You know what? I'll show you guys. Let me put this little piece on, and I'll give you guys an experiment. So this way you understand what silly putty does. So. Alright, so we have an experimental item. Here we go. Alright, there we go. Alright, so this is a Power Girl cape I did a little while ago, and the client broke it, so I replaced it. So this was the broken one, you can see. So I was ready to keep this just for an experiment. So if your silly putty is on your item, let's get a little bit closer. So if your silly putty is on your item, just say it's like this. Stay there. Alright. So say you want to, you know, dull coat your item. So Tester's dull coat, right? It's very strong. It will melt your stuff. So you see how I rub my hand on the silly putty now? You know, it's not doing anything. It's not tacky. It's not coming off. So if we kick this on and we spray this onto here, right? So what's going to happen is it reacts to the silly putty initially. It doesn't really harm the silly putty once it's dried up. So I don't want to get it on my fingers, but so what'll happen is the silly putty starts to, see how it's kind of like melting? See how it kind of melts it? See how it's coming up and it's like coming off of that? And I'm not really even putting a lot of pressure on it. So initially it melts the silly putty. And see how it kind of goes off to the item? And it starts getting on your item like this. So that's kind of what happens with the Tester's dull coat on silly putty. Now once this dries up, so we'll leave this on this and we'll leave this here. We'll hit it with the blow dryer, see if it just dries it up. So it's still kind of wet and it's still tacky, okay? So we'll let this dry and we'll come back to it in like, you know, after I do some more masking, and we'll see what it looks like in a couple more minutes. Because what'll happen is, once it evaporates and it dries up, it kind of starts going away from the silly putty, and the silly putty goes back to normal. It's not acetone. It's just Tester's Dull Coat is a very potent, I guess, lacquer, and it just reacts to the silly putty. But a lot of this silly putty I'm working on with right now, I've sprayed Tester's Dull Coat overnight. Like, say I sprayed the skin tone on here, and I sprayed the skin tone with the Tester's Dull Coat. I let it dry for, you know, 15-20 minutes or so. And then when you pull it off, it comes off. And if there's any of that little tackiness that's sitting there, you could kind of pull it away and it comes off. It's just that the initial spray, and I sprayed heavy though too, don't forget, I just sprayed really close to show you guys. So I mean, you can use Tester's Dull Coat, but you want to let it cure. So if you were to put silly putty on here and you sprayed it with Tester's Dull Coat, let your item dry for a bit, you know? Don't sit there and start rubbing off your masking right away. Let it cure up, let it dry, let the silly putty go back to this, where it's not like, you know, coming off your finger and melting. But we'll go back to that in a few minutes. We'll let it dry. You know, by the time I'm done masking, it should be kind of set up, and you'll see what it looks like. That's the other thing too, is that's why I have the old silly putty batch. So this way, if I'm ever doing priming or you know, enamel from a spray can, sort of has an initial reaction to a silly putty. But then once the enamel dries, the silly putty goes back to with the way it was. But it has all that like candy coated enamel stuck in it. Think of enamel, once it cures on silly putty, it turns into like a candy shell, like M&M's. And then once you start breaking it up, you get all those flakes in your silly putty. And the reason why I have the airbrush booth on is because that Tester's Dull Coat has a really potent smell, so you gotta be very careful with the stuff. I remember the one Jersey Fest I went to, and also the Wonder Fest. Everybody was spraying the Tester's Dull Coat in the room while they were learning in the class, and I walked in there and it was just like a gas and like cloud of Tester's Dull Coat. I don't know how any of those guys were breathing that day. I had to walk out of the room. I was like, you guys are nuts. I never leave any masking material on an item overnight. If you leave silly putty like on her leg overnight, it's not going to kill it. But the problem is if you made a really nice good seam line with your masking tool, you know, and you put a lot on there, the next day when you come in, it could sort of seep away from there. But so think of it as, say the silly putty is against this piece here, right? Say it's against this piece and it's nice and clean. the next day it might come loose a little bit, but you don't see it. So when you spray, all of a sudden you get paint back there. So you would have to make sure your seams are all good again. So you would have to make sure that, you know, the next day it's all seamed up pretty good. But the reason why I don't like to leave masking stuff on my item is because if you work too fast and say the silly putty is coming down and you left it there for a week, you don't know if it's pulling your paint too or if it's doing anything. Yeah, that's why I'm not a fan of lacquers and enamels. I understand that you know, they're stronger, they last longer, you can get some really good effects by them, but they just don't agree with me. I just can't handle too much of that stuff, so I'd rather use the acrylics. Once acrylics like cure, like really kind of set up for a few months, you know, they tend to turn out to be fairly strong. So it's not that acrylics are bad; they're just not as durable in the short run, I guess. But then all these paints we get on these statues from China probably have lead in them anyway, so. Yeah, you can take a break, you know, if you wanna, you know, like I'm doing all this here, you know, after, you know, say you don't want to do this leg and you want to take a break for have lunch, you could come back, that's fine. But like I said, I don't like leaving anything on overnight or on it for like a week at a time. If I'm going to paint something, I'm going to make sure I mask it and paint it all in that session. Nothing sucks more than, you know, if you did some kind of special paint up, like with candy coat or something, and you put silly putty on it, and you came back a week later, when you pulled it off, all of a sudden, you know, there's like all this like markings all over your paint. So I personally would never leave it on overnight. I learned my lesson the hard way. I put saran wrap around an item one time when I first started, and I was like, I'll come back to it in like 3 days, it'll be fine. And then when I came back and I painted the item, and when I pulled off the saran wrap pulled all the paint with it, and it was just a complete mess. And it wasn't even the candy coat, it was just regular paint. So just be careful with that. Yeah, I'm just giving you kind of my mistakes, actually. Stuff that I did that I screwed up on. And then I did a candy coat one time. The candy coat was beautiful. I was like, oh my god, I'm really learning how to do this. And I put saran wrap on it. And then when I pulled the saran wrap off, the saran wrap ripped all that candy coat off the item. That was just heartbreaking to me. So saran wrap is good, and it's also bad. Silly putty is good, and it's also bad. And I've had bad experience with tape, so that's why I don't use tape on any of my stuff. Sometimes I'll use tape, depending on, you know, what I know I can do. But I've always had tape rip off everything I've done. I seal different sections. So when I did her skin tone, I sealed it all up. So I made sure I sealed it with the car paint, and then I did the matte varnish on it. So now when I do this candy coat of the red, it'll have a different look. And then when I do the stuff, yeah. So I try to. Some people like feel that they have to seal the whole thing in one shot when they're done. I try to seal as I go. So I want the skin to be flat, so it's a matte varnish. And if I do this part here, and I want this to be satin, I'll seal it with the satin. If I want this to be glossy, I'll do the gloss look on it. So I don't just sit there and like say, okay, I'm done painting, I gotta seal the whole thing in one shot. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes having a glossy area here and a satin area here and a flat area there makes your paint up look a little bit better than doing one whole flat coat at the end. Yeah, I don't use liquid mask either, because liquid mask on acrylic sort of wettens it up again, and then it sort of pulls up the paint. So I don't use liquid masking, but I've seen people use liquid masking with enamels, like on vehicles, and they do a good job with it. So I don't know. I've tried liquid masking even in the past when I was in art school for like acrylic boards, and even then I had liquid masking rip everything up. So not really a liquid masking person anymore. I've tried it a few times. It just because it's like liquid. You're putting liquid on something and it starts to like get into the, especially if you have like a like say your skin tone here is kind of a little bit textured. So if you put that liquid mask on there, it kind of seeps into that texture. So when you pull it off, you're pulling it like, you know, off as well. Yeah, I'm pretty much just silly putty. I know people hate it. Some people live by tape. Some people live by other stuff. I always say whatever works for you to get the job done, then do it. Don't get pissed off because somebody else does it a different way. Whatever works for you, that's fine. I just know I've had bad luck. You know, if somebody uses a paintbrush and does an airbrush, as long as the final product looks good, then the final product looks good. I just love silly putty because you buy one brick of it and it'll last you like 20 years. You know, whereas like tape, you got to buy a roll of tape all the time. You got to sit there and you got to cut little areas off the tape, and I don't know. And then sometimes the tape pulls up your paint, and I don't know. When I discovered silly putty at the, was it the Wonderfest? I think it was the Wonderfest show. I saw what you could do with silly putty. I was just blown away. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I need silly putty. Before silly putty, I was using tape, and I was using, I was trying liquid masking, and it was just everything I did was just not working. Now, I'm not being super perfect with my masking right now on the legs, because like I said, I'm going to go back in there later and clean up the edges. If I can get the majority of it done, it'll look fine. Yeah, I guess silly putty's been around in the hobby for a long time. But you know what it is when I started painting, there wasn't as much access to information back then, I guess. There was information, but it wasn't like it is now. So you can see there's caked up stuff in here, right? But I know that's, you could kind of like pull it off and get the flakes out, or just kind of break it all up again. But you can sort of see particles in there. So if you have a wet item and you start putting your silly putty on that wet area, and when you pull it off, it dries, it'll start pulling those little particles out. So that's something you got to be careful of. But if it's dry, you're good to go. And if little flakes get on your item, you can kind of just brush them away too. Alright, let's check the silly putty over here. Alright, so it's been what? 15-20 minutes or so? So it's a little, it's not as tacky, right? So it's still a little bit wet in some areas, but it's not as wet as it was before. See, it's not like coming off like this. So if we put this back on here, so if you start pulling off your silly putty, right, and you have that little spot there, it sort of comes up. But because I mushed it in there with the texture, it's kind of pulled off some of the red. But see how it starts to dry up? You can start pulling off the silly putty. So you can pull off the silly putty after it kind of gets all dried up and you're good to go, but you still can mess up your paint because it starts to melt the paint. But once it's back in the silly putty and you're drying up, so it's not tacky anymore and it's all back the way it was. See? So that's kind of what I know about silly putty. Great stuff. I love using it. It's not that expensive if you buy a 5-pound brick. Lasts you a long time. And I guess another thing too is about be careful if you put it against something like this, you know, like, and then when you go to pull your silly putty off, don't try and sit there and rip the piece off and break something. It's just sort of like start pulling your silly putty away from the item. You don't want to snap anything. You can get those eggs of silly putty, but the problem is you're just wasting your money. You know, you're spending like, what? I don't know how much they cost, but the last time I saw it's like $5 and you only get like maybe that much in an egg, or maybe this much in an egg. You know, I don't know how much you get in those eggs anymore. But for, I guess it's like $100 now, but if you wait for Crayola to have a sale, you can get yourself 5-pound brick of it for $100 and it can last you, and you have enough to do whole stash use. I think I priced it out when I first saw it. I was gonna go to like Toys R Us and get eggs, and I priced it out for, if I was to get about 5 pounds of just eggs, if they even had that many, it probably would have cost me $300 or like $200, whereas just getting a 5-pound brick at the time was like $70. Hey, you know, if that's all you can get, then that's all you can get. I've had a couple guys in the hobby actually buy a 5-pound brick, and what they do is they'll go to a show and they'll split it with people, so they get like, they'll cut it into like 1 pound each for each person, and that's all they need. So you could go like, you know, halves on somebody else. Yeah, I guess if you're only doing a couple kits here and there, you don't need a lot, that's fine. But for me, you know, since I do so much, I'd rather have a surplus of it. I still have an unopened box of it underneath it. Well, not an unopened. I still have... Yeah. So, I still got the box right here. Yeah, see, this is, I think, a 5 pound I haven't opened. I made a mistake one time of buying the silly putty, like the neon color ones, and what happened was they were so tacky they were ripping up my paint. So it was actually official silly putty stuff, but the problem was they had a chemical in there to make it look like a neon color or a glow in the dark, and it ripped up the paint. So regular, old-fashioned silly putty from back in the day is the best stuff to use. I tried, somebody told me that they used, like when I first got in the hobby, somebody said they used, Crayola, clay? Not clay, not silly putty, it's like Crayola, I guess it's clay, right? Like, what is that Crayola stuff? They have the different colors and you can sculpt with it, but it never cures. It's like for kids. I think it's just clay. Or Play-Doh. Play-Doh, that's it. Play-Doh. Duh. How the hell did I forget that? So I bought a thing of Play-Doh, and I put it all over the item, and when I pulled it off, it left a nasty oil residue that no paint would stick to the item afterwards. So that was a hard lesson learned that day. So what I had to do is I had to like clean up the item, I had to wash it, I had to get all that oil off the item. It was a nightmare. Boy, I made some dumbass mistakes back in the day doing this stuff. Oh, you like the smell of that stuff? Ugh. Are you one of those people that like magic marker smell too? Yeah, you learn from my mistakes. Yeah, Raccoon was that type of kid in school that would be sitting in the back room just sniffing the black magic marker all day. The weird one. Getting high in the back. Alright, so another thing too to be careful of when you're doing an item is on her neck, what I'm trying to do is build it up like this. So when I wrap the silly putty around, it connects into here. Because sometimes if you jab silly putty down in there and you're not careful, you might get a flow of paint going into that area. So when we take the silly putty, saran wrap, take the saran wrap, and we put it around here like underneath this, like so. We make sure we don't get a flow underneath there. Sometimes just building it a little bit thicker here will make your life easier, you know, instead of trying to jam it underneath there, and then you get like, if you hit your spray the wrong way in this direction and you get it, your saran wrap could kind of like pop out, and then you get like a gust of red paint underneath there, and that'll mess up everything. So I'm not like tying it to the point where it's like can't breathe. I'm just putting it around fairly decently, so get a nice good seal, and I don't have to worry about any paint getting stuck underneath her face. Okay. So I think we're good. Double check. All right. I had another bottle of black. Did I use it all? Hold on. Guess I did something with it. Damn. Unless this is the bottle I had? Yeah, this is it. Okay. Alright, so we have a chrome silver. Well, silver metallic. And then we have Spaztec clear candy apple red. And then we have black. So I know if I use candy apple red through the can, I could get a really kind of good like metallic-y clear. But I think doing it through the airbrush, I might get that outfit look better. It might not be as like super clear, but it will be dulled down a little bit that it should work. So we're gonna try. Because honestly, I can't get that look of Wonder Woman's armor with just like acrylic paints. I don't think I'd be able to. So we're going to do the chrome silver first, and then we're going to blacken up some areas. And then we'll try the clear coat on it, see what happens. Okay, so my brush isn't clogged, so that's a bonus. Now the only thing with the Spaztec stuff, it is a little bit potent, so I'm going to wear my mask. Now, Alclad makes a clear red too, but I find that I like Spaztec stuff more than Alclad. The Alclad stuff is really good, but you have to be on point to know what you're doing to get a really good chrome, like clear metallic look. Whereas Spaztec seems to have a little bit more freedom with theirs. So, alright, close the door. Oh, another thing is these bottles are so high they tend to flip over, so be careful when you're using them. Put them somewhere when you're opening them that they don't spill over, otherwise you lose the whole bottle. I don't know what this one is. I think it's a .3 on this needle. This is my enamel brush or lacquer brush. Put my things on. It's HPCS. The only reason why I'm using this one for enamels because I wasn't using it for anything else. So anytime I do lacquers or enamels, I use this brush. Yeah, whatever HPCS comes with, that's what it is. So I think it's a, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a .3. Alright, so I'm looking at her artwork he sent me. So it has these little patches all around her. But it's not like a bright red, so I think this will work. So I gotta clean out this brush right now. I think it would be better to use a thicker brush to do the clear coat, but I don't have a thicker brush that I use for lacquers. Alright, so I think I don't need to use the mask for this one. I'll use this mask instead. Alright, I think that works. I like it. Now, if I think it's too, like, it's too shiny, I probably could dull it down with some satin varnish. I don't know how it would look. You know what I could do? I could try something like over here, like on the gold area, and see how it looks. If I think that might work, I could go ahead and do the rest of it. But I don't know how, if there will be a reaction. So let's kind of see, because her outfit isn't this shiny, but I don't want it to be like flat as hell either. So let's see if we can, let's see what happens. Let's kind of hit it over here just to see. Yeah, actually, I don't know, Joe, are you in chat? Do you want it shiny or you want it dulled down just a little bit? I think her outfit's a little dulled down. I could try over in the other camera real quick. So she's shiny up here, but if I dull it down, it kind of creates this look. I don't know if you can see it in camera. So it kind of dulls it down a little bit, for it stays shiny like this. I'm kind of thinking dull it down a bit. I don't know if he's still in chat or not. I think I'm going to make the decision to dull it down a little bit, only because it's still semi-tacky. I want to keep it, I want to do it while it's a little tacky. Just a little bit. I don't want it to look like Iron Man, you know? Yeah, that's actually looking a little bit more movie look. UVC, pressure-wise, it's up to how you want your flow. Hold on, let me just... Sorry, I got a little bit of a clog. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, dulling this down looks more like the movie now. Yeah, looks a little bit better. Alright. Pressure wise, I keep everything at like 35 psi, 35, 40 psi. Only because the main brush I use is the one that has the pressure gauge on the airbrush. So most of the time this is the airbrush I use, the HPCH. And then if I got high pressure or low pressure, I could kind of use this to turn it up or high or low. So, but most of the time if I'm using my thicker airbrushes to do bigger areas, I don't have this gauge, so I'm doing like 30 psi, 35, something like that. But then most of the time when I'm doing like lower pressure and stuff, I'll fudge with this on my brush. Alright, so basically I got the look of the outfit in a sense, but without it being like Iron Man. So it's got like that sheen to it, but it's not like chromed out. So basically that it worked out pretty well. I'm kind of happy with what it looks like, because I am following a piece of artwork he sent, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's got weird different black marks all around it, but it's not super shiny to the point where it's like, see how it kind of seems like it's got a metal to it, but it's not like Iron Man armor. So, and then what I'll do is, I'll later down the line I'll go in with a black thin brush and I'll deepen up these black lines around her, and it should come together. So this is good to know that I can do this with the Spaztec, and then use the satin varnish on top of it to give it this look. So I'm pretty happy with it now. Alright, let me clean out my brush real quick, and then we'll take off the masking. Oh, my bottle tipped over, but thank God I had the cap on. I would have lost that red bottle. I love Spaztec, but they need to come up with better bottles. These things tip over too easy. So I know if there's any little shiny parts I missed, like later, I can go back in with the satin and dull it down. So, looks pretty good. Yeah, I probably should do that too for my stuff, but I'm just want to get my paint, grab it, and paint. I'm just not the type to build like paint setups, or I just have everything on the shelf and I just grab what I want. It's just the Spaztec I have a problem with. Have you ever used a Spaztec hanger? Like if you use one of those bottles, you'll see how much of a pain they are. They tip over so easy. Okay, so whenever I unmask anything, even with this type of thing, try never to, you never know if this residue will dirty up your skin tone. So always try to pull it away like this. Like, see how I'm kind of pulling it into itself? Just to be on the safe side. You don't want to like pull this down and then put this here and stick your finger onto like the skin tone and screw it all up. Yeah, Spaztec is great. If you want to do candy coats, if you want to do, you know, chrome, Spaztec seems to be the company, the paints to use. Especially their bottles, like their spray cans, they may look like they're crap, but they spray really good. Really, really good. Like I actually use Spaztec over Alclad now more than anything. I'd rather use their chrome and their candy coats over Alclad now. The only problem though is sometimes the bottles clog up on you, the spray cans. So that's kind of a pain in the ass. But then again, a lot of spray can tips clog up. And the cool thing about the Spaztec, like the clear coats and stuff, see how it kind of cakes up and cracks up at the edge? So when you go to unmask, you don't have to worry about it like grabbing. You could kind of like let it dry and then the flakes come like right off. So that red looks pretty good. It's a little bit of a deeper red than what she has, but I like it because I didn't want it to look orange. That's the only thing with Alclad and also Spaztec when you do like their clear coats. Alclad, if you're not really good with evening it out, you can sort of build up too dark of a red and a lighter red. I find that Spaztec, for some odd reason, it'll let you keep blending and everything blends beautifully. So Spaztec, even out of the rattle can, you could get a nice good red or blue or yellow, and you don't have to worry about like, oh my god, this part is darker than that. It seems to blend better. So keep that in mind too if you get into Spaztec stuff. Yeah, so I got a lot of edge cleaning to do on this, but that's okay. We'll get to that another time. Yeah, Spaztic. Spastics. I pronounce shit weird, so. Yeah, the cans look a little bit like knockoff cans, but they're really simple. You know, the mirror chrome is good. The high shine fuel protectors, clear coat's good. Yeah, a Jersey thing, what can I say? Spastic, whatever. You saw the can, you know what to get now. Just like when I go to the hobby shows, people say Tamaya or Tamia. So I got people saying, no, it's Tamia. And other people like, no, it's Tamaya. So I don't really know what it's called. Hey Wells, yeah, been busy. How's everything going? Thanks for stopping by. Just kind of plugging away on projects still. So it's Tamia. I always used to say Tamaya. But let's just say that blue paint and that red paint works good enough. Massachusetts, so you're basically in Canada, right? Alright, I'm pretty happy with this. I think she's not full-blown Iron Man, but not super dull down, so it's got that metal look to her. Still a little tacky, so I'll definitely give this a day to cure up before I start messing with anything else. What I'll probably do tomorrow is get all her black trim done, probably do this skirt, then after that it's going to be all the gold, which is going to be a pain in the ass. But I'm going to do Alclad Pale Gold is my favorite gold. So, definitely will do that. Okay, next on the agenda, before I go back to the first Wonder Woman, how's her stuff doing? It's not quite there. Let's work on the road. I'm gonna take a picture of Wonder Woman real quick, send it to Joe so he can see what it looks like. It's better sending a pic from the phone than seeing it on a camcorder. Alright, so I've still been plugging away on Rogue. So I think it's time to do her jacket today. Do a little air from that spastic stuff. Alright, Wells, have a good one. Thanks, I don't know what kind of class you got going, but yeah, don't screw that up. Do that. Oh, C++. I got you. All right. Well. Don't screw up school. Alright, so since this is a leather jacket, what I'm going to do is just kind of hand paint it and leave a lot of marks on it so it'll look like it's worn in areas. All I'm going to use is raw umber and leather from this, sort of like what I did with the belt. I might throw a little bit of mahogany in there to give it a little bit of a different color. That bottle's too... I just had a brain fart. Is her arm supposed to be green or skin? What did I do on the last one? Just... Why am I having a brain fart on that? Jim Lee Rogue. Oh, it's supposed to be green. Son of a bitch. I screwed that up. You guys are supposed to remind me on that. Oh well. Fix it. I don't understand why the hell I painted its skin. I was looking at it, I'm like, wait a second. Why did I paint that skin tone? My keys, with the key stock, the metal stuff. I've done it in a lot of videos, actually. Trying to think of one that I show a little bit more in depth. I don't know, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I just know they're in a bunch of different videos. Yeah, that's the best thing I could say. I don't really... Any work in progress videos probably might... I know I talked about it on a live stream a few weeks ago. I forget which one that was. Maybe it was a Psylocke one when I was talking about the key there. I think. Unless I made a video on keying. I don't know. Best thing I say is search on my channel. It's gotta be something I did there. I'm almost positive I did a video on how I key. Let me look real quick. Hold on. You know what it is YouTube buries a lot of videos the more you make. So I tried to make playlists of the stuff, but even making playlists, still some videos get buried. Yeah, I didn't. Hold on. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I. Damn it! Stop that. Yeah, here we go. This is, these two videos will probably be the ones you're looking for. I didn't call it keying, that's why.
Hey guys, welcome back to VinceVellCUSTOMS. Today we're going to do...
Alright, so this is a... Look up that on my channel. I did 2 videos on it. If they're older, but it's pretty much what I do for keying, so that'll probably help. They're old though. Someday maybe I'll update them. It's good to have these on hand. Hey Raphael, thanks. Yeah, she's coming along. Like I said, I wish the first one never got lost, but what are you gonna do? Just the guy that I'm doing this for has been really patient. He's a great guy to work with. I just feel bad. He really wanted that first one, but oh well. I can't believe I did the arms and skin tone. I think I did the same mistake on the premium format one. I think I painted skin tone and then I realized she doesn't have skin arms. I don't know why I always think she has skin arms. Oh well. We'll correct it. Right now I'm just still getting a base coat on her. And then we'll try to weather the wrinkle areas. Painting a red Hulk, use browns, and I guess you can try a little bit of oranges. Try not to use any black if you can help it. Try to stick to reds, browns, and maybe a little blue. If you put a little blue, you'll get like a darker purple look. So I guess if I was to paint red She-Hulk or red Hulk, I would probably do a base coat of red. I would probably do like mahogany, uh, like a mahogany shade, which is kind of like a red brown. And then probably do a little bit of red mahogany and a couple drops of blue to get like a purplish brown. And then that might give me a darker shade for him. Yeah, but stay away from blacks. Stick to blue, browns, but keep light browns. Don't go to like raw umber, because raw umber's got like black in it. Stick to blues if you can. It may sound weird, but it'll probably be better look for him. I mean, you're painting a superhero statue, so sometimes black is okay, but the minute you start really putting a lot of black in your items, you'll start to mute, kind of give it a really nasty looking shade. So try to stick to browns, blues, purples. That'll probably help it look a little bit better. Yeah, no problem, Raphael. Hopefully it works out. Sorry, just replying to somebody. Alright, so I gotta paint her arms up once this stuff dries, and then I can finish up the sleeves. And then I can start doing the boots and then the hair. I'll probably do the hair first and then the boots last, only because I gotta hold it. I'm gonna set her aside. So all I did was a base coat of brown, and then I kind of weathered it. What I'll probably do is do a satin coat on it later when it dries up a bit, just to make it look like it's a little bit of a shiny jacket in some areas, I guess. But yeah, we'll do that later. Alright, I'm taking a break. I'm turning off the stream because I got to get back on that Wonder Woman later, but that's where I'm calling it for today on the stream. Go grab something, a little snackaroo, and then get back to work tonight. Alright guys, thanks for stopping by, appreciate it. Try to stream again before Friday if I get a chance. So have a good one.